industry as well.
We'll go on to Mr. Reid. Mr. Reid.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I want to confirm whether it is the case that at a meeting later this week, the Prime Minister will be proposing to the Premiers that wherever the RCMP is contracted to serve as a provincial police force, body cams should be used by all officers on patrol.
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much to the member opposite for the question. And there is a very important discussion taking place not only within the RCMP but in policing right across the country about how to improve systems of accountability and oversight and to provide the best possible evidence of events as they transpire. And so for the police services for which the government is responsible for, we have made a commitment to do that.
Was that a yes? Will it be brought up at the meeting later this week?
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you for the opportunity to finish my answer. The Prime Minister has made it very clear that the premiers of the provinces and territories who are actually responsible for policing in their respective jurisdiction, this is an important discussion which he intends to raise with them as well.
To Mr. Reid.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My understanding is that for the type of cameras proposed, the installed cost is about $4,000 per officer. There are about 20,000 frontline RCMP officers across the country. So this suggests a total cost of perhaps about $80 million to set up body cams across Canada. Are those numbers roughly accurate?
Honourable Minister.
No, they're not actually, because not every individual would require their own camera. And we are looking at patrol circumstances where the presence of a camera can provide valuable evidence and provide enhanced accountability for the officers. It's particularly acute, I would point out, in some of our Indigenous and remote communities, and so that's where we'll be looking first.
Mr. Reid.
Mr. Chair, there are about 5,600 RCMP patrol vehicles across the country. Would it be correct to use the $4,000 figure times that number of vehicles, giving us about a $20 to $30 million cost?
The Honourable Minister.
Yeah, thank you very much. And of course, the member raises another secondary but very important issue of in-car cameras. Many of our patrol cars are already equipped with such devices.
Mr. Reid.
Thank you. Given the Prime Minister's newfound enthusiasm for the adoption of this excellent life-saving technology, body cams are an excellent technology, may I make so bold as to suggest that it might be appropriate, after 4 years of my persistent questioning on this subject, for the government to also install automated external defibrillators in every one of the 5,600 RCMP vehicles?
Well, Minister.
I'm aware of and commend the member for his strong advocacy on that. I, too, am experienced in the use of these devices. I believe it can save lives. There are, of course, issues of cost and jurisdiction that need to be addressed, but the member's advocacy, I think, is very valued.
Mr. Reid.
The advocacy of the House of Commons as a whole is also valued. On January 21st, 2018, the House of Commons unanimously voted, quote, that within 12 months the government should follow the example of other Canadian police services and act to save hundreds of lives each year by equipping all RCMP vehicles with defibrillators. That was over 24 months ago. Why has the government failed to act on the unanimous advice of the House of Commons?
Honourable Minister.
Well, I thank the member opposite again for his strong advocacy on this. It's an issue that is under discussion with the RCMP. There are a number of operational issues that need to be addressed within the police service and priorities made in the expenditure of funds, but we are aware of this House's strong support for that measure.
Mr. Reid.
Priority of funds is an excellent question, Mr. Chair. It will cost approximately $1 billion to renovate the centre block. I believe that's accurate. It will cost approximately $20 million I'm sorry, I got my numbers wrong. It will cost $5 million to put these AEDs into all defibrillators, into all police cruisers. This would save 300 lives per annum. Is the cost of saving 300 lives per annum more or less than 1/2% as important as renovating the centre block?
Honourable Minister.
I certainly wouldn't want to debate the member on the value of a human life. And so I believe it's very important that we do everything necessary. Our first responsibility is the preservation and sanctity of life. There are a number of important operational considerations that the RCMP will undertake.
Mr. Reid, we have 30 seconds.
Within the 24 months that took place since this matter was raised unanimously in the House, I have this question for the Minister. There are 5,600 RCMP vehicles. It would cost $5 million to save 300 lives per annum, and a defibrillator lasts about 10 years and saves, on average, during that 10-year lifespan, 1 life per every 1.7 defibrillators installed. Is this or is this not a priority that the Prime Minister will deal with by the end of this year?
Minister.
Unfortunately, because this is an operational decision of the RCMP to make that commitment on behalf of the member, but I will acknowledge the value of automatic defibrillator machines in our communities, and I'm certain that the RCMP are aware of that as well.